Let's speak to Iain Begg, a professorial research fellow at the European Institute. Iain joins us from London. Iain, was that a fair assessment of where we are heading into this election?
In one sense, yes. You're correct to identify the completely divided country in which there is roughly half in favour of Brexit and half in favour of remaining in the EU. But it's perhaps incorrect to portray it only as a question about Brexit. British elections over the years have always been about two main things: the economy and our public services, and particularly our National Health Service, which has a totemic quality inside the UK. In past elections, Europe has been well down the list of priorities, so it's unusual for it to be so high. I think what you're seeing is a Labour Party pitch, which is very much about the health service, a Conservative Party pitch, which is summed up in the three words that Boris Johnson has been repeating every single opportunity he has, which is get Brexit done. And these two clashes are very difficult to reconcile in how the electorate's going to vote. If you want my judgment on this, it's that it's now a choice between Boris Johnson winning an outright majority and a combination of all the other parties having a majority, but with no overall control inside Parliament. So it looks set to be a very strange outcome for the election.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much Brexit is actually going to affect domestic policies as well, because Johnson has been talking about making sure that the NHS, the National Health Service, one of the world's very, very biggest employers, is properly funded. He's talking about keeping people safe by putting extra police onto the streets. He's talked about doing something to reduce the amount of child poverty. But every time he says it, he pretty much admits that actually that can only all be achieved with a growing economy. But aren't the government's assessments about Brexit still showing that the economy is going to shrink when Brexit happens?
Well, maybe not shrink, but not grow as fast as it would otherwise have done. And this has been one of the lines in this whole campaign which has been rather obscured. We talk very much about Brexit costing the economy, but it's compared with what it would otherwise have done. So rather than having, let's say, 2% growth, it might be 0.5% growth. Nevertheless, any way you look at it, the resources available for all the other policies that either side want to put in place are going to be squeezed if Brexit happens. That's the consensus amongst economists. It's what the government analysis says. What we face, though, is the continuing uncertainty. And this is where Boris's line of get Brexit done at least has the advantage from some perspectives of getting over that uncertainty, which has bedeviled the economy now for over 3 years. It does lead to an uncertain future, because the idea that it's going to be done on the 31st of January, when Britain, if Boris Johnson prevails, withdraws from the EU, is fantasy. There's a whole new stage of renegotiation of the relationship with the EU to be conducted, and there's no chance of that being done within the 12 months that Boris says it can be done.
I can't remember a previous election in the United Kingdom which has had so much discussion centred around tactical voting. In other words, people being encouraged to vote for parties that are not their natural choice. What's the equation going on, do you think, in people's minds about voting in terms of loyalty to the country, which would be regarding its position in the European Union, and loyalty towards their traditional parties that they would normally support?
Well, you're right. It's become very bizarre. You find the Conservatives making a big play to gain seats in the North and Midlands of England. This is very much an English election, by the way, rather than a United Kingdom election. They're trying to win there. The pro-Remain forces, those in favour of staying inside the EU, are making their big pitches in the southwest of England, around London and in Scotland. And what you're therefore seeing is party loyalties being confused. There are many people in the north of England who said, my grandfather would be spinning in his grave if he thought I was even considering voting Conservative. And yet that's the only area where the Conservatives can realistically hope to make progress, is taking away the seats that are currently Labour, which are pro-Brexit.
OK, Iain,